Good morning, everyone. Thank you to the regular board meeting of ReGen Monterey. It's October 20th and it is 9:02. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Ida, do we have any just cause notifications or circumstances?
I do not have any.
Okay, roll call, please.
Chair Campbell.
Here.
Vice Chair-
Well done.
Vice Chair Shirley.
Yes, here.
Director Alaska.
Here.
Director Delgado. Director Blackwelder.
Here.
Director Askew. Here. Director Peak.
Here.
Director Barber. Here. Director Ferlito.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Kim, for covering for me. So we did the just cause.
Yes.
Okay, great. If you would all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just let everyone know we're gonna rearrange the agenda just a little bit. We're gonna move item 10 until after closed session. Item 10, which is approved revised compensation in the form of salary and benefits furnished to the general manager. So we arrange that. We'll open it up to public communications. Anyone wishing to address the board on matters not appearing on the agenda may do so now. Please limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. The public may comment on any other matter listed on the agenda at the time the matter is being considered by the board. For information about submitting public comments and writing in advance of the meeting, please see the meeting information section of this agenda. If there's anyone in the public who'd like to address the board, please approach the podium or signify online. All right, seeing no one, we'll close public communications. Moving on to consent. These matters include routine financial and administrative actions, which are usually approved by a single majority vote. Individual items may be removed from consent for discussion and action. 6 items. Item 1, approved minutes of September 22, 2023 regular board meeting. Item 2, approved report of disbursements and board and employee reimbursements for September 2023. 3, approved 2024 board meeting calendar. 4, approved the addition of new classification and pay schedule for the associate engineer position. 5, authorize the general manager to execute agreement with Waste Management for single stream recycling. And 6, receive module 7 phase project update. Is there anyone on the board who would like to remove or pull any of these items? Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Leo. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there anyone from the public who would like to pull any item or comment on the consent agenda in general? Please approach the podium or signify, raise your hand online. Do we see anyone?
None online.
Online, seeing no one in the chambers. We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. So recognition and presentations. Presentation of service award to Director Campbell for over 5 years.
Yes, so at this point, we would like to have the vice chair present the award for service and tenure for Jason Campbell. At this time, I'd like to send my appreciation from the public and from our organization for your efforts and your contributions of service, and always really keeping us at a very close sight to making a decision and moving forward and continuing the views of ReGen Monterey. With that, I'd like to thank you for your service, and Kim will be presenting a 5-year service award that is a little bit late.
Jason, this is your commitment to service and appreciation for over 5 years of service. We're thinking maybe it's around 6. To you, so as a fellow board member, thank you so much. I really look at you as a mentor. You've led us so well, and again, thank you for your commitment to this agency, to all of us, to the community. I know your heart has been in this. You are strongly dedicated, and we wish to thank you for this.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, great. Yes. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's of all the words I've served on, this is absolutely my favorite. Absolutely my favorite. And it's, you know, we do good work here, and there's so little or no conflict that it's just it makes it easy. And part of the reason is because of Jerry. So on to A, which is presentation of service award to Director Jack Welder for over 5 years of service.
Jerry, over 5 years of service as well. So thank you very much. You're a quiet voice on this board, but I think you, when you do speak, you say important things. So I appreciate your presence, your dedication to the board, and thank you for all of your years of service.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And I imagine everyone else on the board will try and stay on as long as they can, because it's just like I said, a really good board.
Yeah, I agree with Campbell on that. This is an incredible board, and the staff is so top notch. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think there's a better staff anywhere. You guys are amazing. So,
I'm gonna.
Excellent comment. All right, let's move on to discussion and action. Approve limited term pilot study agreement with Loci Control. That how pronounced Loci Control Incorporated of Wareham, Massachusetts, for automated control of LFG collection wells not to exceed a cost of $110,000.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to do an introduction before I hand it off to Mr. Petroborg, our Director of Engineering. This is an opportunity for us to use some technology to help us manage our landfill gas wells that we currently monitor manually. This is an opportunity to see some technology come into play so that we don't have to leverage hills and slants of the landfill and difficult areas to achieve, and also to be able to monitor, most importantly, monitor the quality of gas. As we all aware, we create 5 megawatts of energy from our gas, and so it's very important for us to know the quality and the other opportunities that our agency has to pursue other gas opportunities. So this will be some technology that we can pilot to monitor to see if it is the tool that we need to get other items and opportunities up for us, like the RCNG quality that we need to meet, and the standard to get the opportunity to create the RCNG for our hauling facility that we have next door. So a big opportunity and window. And I was very, very entertained and interested with the technology that comes and how we can harness our landfill gas management in a different manner. At this point, I'd like to introduce Guy Petroborg for the presentation.
good morning, Chair Campbell and directors of the board. It's my pleasure to be able to give this presentation to you. And thank you for the introduction. So the presentation today is going to be a little background, a brief history of the landfill and landfill gas here at ReGen Monterey. And the summary of existing conditions, so you understand where the landfill is in its phase of development. And how a landfill gas system is monitored and utilized. Then I'll present some information about the scope of the proposed pilot study and make the recommendation that we have in front of you today, which is to approve this limited term pilot study for assessing the performance of automated control of landfill gas wells. So, to the history. Roll, or next slide, please. That work? All right, thank you. So the landfill opened in late 1965 when waste disposal began at the site. And it was quite a bit of time before the landfill gas collection system was installed. That's due in part to technology. The evolution of technology wasn't quite available there in the 60s and 70s. Started to come into use in the late 70s, early 80s. And another reason is that not much waste was being disposed of in those days. We're talking tens of tons, maybe 100 or 150 tons a day. Not a lot of activity, compared to the average of around 2,000 tons a day currently. 1983 was the year that a small gas collection system was installed here at ReGen. It was in the Module 1 area, which was partially filled at that time at the lower elevations, and was sufficient enough waste to install 5 or 6 wells, for collecting the gas and distributing that to what was the engine plant at that time, which was basically an engine and a generator inside a shipping container. So it was kind of built off site inside a shipping container and delivered to the site and connected here for operations. And this is a similar type engine at the time, a Waukesha out of Wisconsin, was quite popular in the 80s for those few landfills that had adopted gas to energy. And I think that's significant enough to point out that ReGen was an early adapter or adopter of gas to energy. It was the first destruction system here at the landfill. And typically landfills have a flare. And it takes decades before they get enough gas and capital and willingness to pursue a gas to energy project. That didn't happen at ReGen. In 1983, you could count the number of gas to energies on one hand. They were just being adopted in the early 80s. And so this was one of the first ones. The system is growing since that time. It demonstrated its usefulness then and continues to do that. At that time, there was more simple equipment available for collecting landfill gas. There on the left is a kind of typical detail in a simplified view. Basically a pipe that's a hole that's drilled with a pipe and gravel installed over a perforated section that's deep, where the gas is pulled from under vacuum. And then the upper pipe section is solid to separate the gas from the ambient air conditions. As you know, the gas is being created in the absence of oxygen. It's called anaerobic digestion. So there's bacteria that's, whole colony of bacteria living inside the waste mass, not in the presence of oxygen. And their activity has the byproduct of creating the landfill gas. The goal of a gas collection system is to pull the gas out of the landfill at essentially the same rate that the gas is being created. So there's a balance of activity. Overpulling or underpulling will change the environment of the bacteria, and thus it will change their output of creating the gas. It will disrupt it. So there's an optimum condition for the bacteria that the landfill gas collection system is trying to align with. And as you might imagine, having a landfill now here for so long, there's going to be different zones in the landfill that are at different stages of decomposition. And so that's where each well becomes an individual. It's specific to this zone of collection and has its own requirements for how to tune it, manage it over time. The photo on the right, it was kind of a common wellhead. You see the taller pipe on the left is the well itself, and the smaller pipe on the right is the source of vacuum that's pulling the gas out of that well. There's a valve in the middle of that pipe connection between the two, between the vacuum source and the well, and that was a simple butterfly valve. And there really wasn't monitoring equipment for that wellhead. It was really just more of a manual adjustment of that valve with little additional information for the operator. But that was then, at the early part of the industry use of landfill gas collection. Now, 40 years later, I think quite a bit has changed. A little more specificity around the well there and that detail on the left. It's basically the same concept as the prior detail, where there's a collection zone at depth and a separation zone at the near surface. Really, the only changes have been an addition of a second low permeability soil layer near the top of the well, and also a membrane at the top of the well to try to minimize any gas escape through the well and into the environment. On the right is the wellhead detail. Kind of the same configuration. You have a well source and a vacuum source to pull the gas off the well. But in between those two is a different wellhead. There's a little more control today in monitoring. This is the current footprint of the landfill. It's closer to 163 acres in size instead of the 50 or 60 that existed in the early 80s. Probably have 150 acres under control of the gas system, and there's close to 100 wells here now, compared to that handful of wells that was first used for the original engine. Kind of a photo comparison of the two wellhead. The one on the left is the older type with the butterfly valve and very little additional information available to the operator, while the one on the right is kind of a new version, has multiple controls, of fine tune adjustable valve so that, the operator can, get a closer, tuning of the well to the conditions being observed. You can see the little ports on the side. There's 4 of them, 3 on one on the side of the riser and 1 on the top of the horizontal pipe up there. Those are all monitoring ports that the operator has a instrument to connect to, and they can monitor various parameters of the well, including some gas quality. And also now gas flow. So it's important to know concentrations and flow. Because that's going to tell whether the content of fuel is there for use by the engines or for destruction in the flare. And here we are, 40 years later, got a building, built in the mid-90s to house 4 engines, and they're generating up to about 5 megawatts of power. And there's sufficient gas where that plant could be recapitalized and 4 new engines with about an additional 1.4 megawatts of power added just by changing the engines out in that plant. So on to why would we want to change practice to go from a manual tuning to an automated control of a well. A little bit on the manual tuning process. It's for the whole well field. It's done once or twice a month, typically. For the current size of this landfill, it takes 2 guys 1 day to cover the field. And they're basically getting a well reading at each of those near 100 wells and doing some tuning adjustment of the well based on those readings. And then they're moving on to the next well. And that's a lot of wells to visit. That's a lot of manual time, 2 guys full day. And it's only basically getting 1 measurement. And you have 29, 30 other days in the month. And what's happening every day is there is a temperature cycle. There may also be a barometric pressure cycle. Both of those affect the situations, the environment of the landfill, and result in changes that affect the gas well itself. And this is an illustration of trying to convey some of those concepts to the audience here. So this rectangular zone down here, and this solid black line is representing the manual tuning process. And it's happening once or twice, and then it's set for the month. While what you see above that, I should say before we go into that, is that this safety buffer here is being set to avoid the well pulling in atmospheric conditions, and that negatively affects the quality of the gas. So the well is being tuned back slightly from what its optimum could be in a static condition, and that's what these lines are representing. However, the conditions aren't static. They can change by climatic conditions. And that's these waveforms you're seeing here. And the blue zones in the safety buffer and below the waveform there are opportunities to collect landfill gas if the well could be automatically or dynamically changed as those conditions develop. And so that's the idea, the general concept around why the automated control is an attractive alternative. It's because you can make adjustments during the day. And the ability is to collect more gas. And again, the goal of the operator of the gas system is to align extraction of gas to what's being generated. So that we support the decomposition process that's uncontrolled by us in the landfill. This is an example of the equipment that goes on to the well. It's not extensive equipment. There on the left is on the well riser itself is a solar panel. That solar panel is charging a battery, and that battery is providing the power to the devices that are inside the little control box on the right there, just below the yellow flex hose. That's where the controlled boards are, and they manage some instruments on either side of the vacuum riser there you see with the black pipe. And the wellhead itself is static. So the well's tuned in static at step one. And then the automated system is engaged, and it has its own control of flow rates. And it's monitoring gas qualities on an ongoing basis. And then when the operator is able to set control points to guide how to operate the well, and the control system here will automatically use those set points to guide what it does, at what times it's needed to make those adjustments. Each well that is monitored will show up on a dashboard at the operator's desk, in the gas plant. And so the operator's able to see the entire field and is able to look at any individual well and monitor conditions live as opposed retrospectively, which would in the manual process. The manual process would require the operator to go out to that particular well and monitor that well and compare that information to the prior tuning event and make manual adjustments. That's a 1 to 2 hour event, and in a few minutes you can understand the well right off a platform like this using the automated control information. The benefits are to improve gas quality and gas quantity. Want to capture some of that gas that the other graph showed that's not being captured. That has the benefits of also reducing the potential for surface emissions, because most of the more gas is being collected, and there's less opportunity for the gas to move through the waste mass and escape. Less fugitive surface emissions likely will mean less odor of landfill gas being detected for the workers on site, and should the gas have ever gone off site, then off site as well. So there's positives on environmental control in addition to operational control. You know, for us here at ReGen, we did deliver a California Energy Commission grant project to condition landfill gas to a higher quality for use in CNG. That system was performance tested and did achieve sufficient quality gas for the CNG at the time of the testing. The challenge for that system is that the landfill gas is not stable. Its quality is not stable, and so, you know, we can't operate a conditioning system in little windows of time. It needs to be more consistent delivery, and this opportunity in automated control with having set points, controlling the quality in the field will be a significant contribution to achieving stable gas conditions for the CNG production. It's the automated systems become really popular for those landfills that are that do have RNG development projects. So technology's been around for more than 10 years, but its popularity is really just getting traction in the last 4 or 5 as these RNG development projects have come around. So we're proposing a limited 12-month pilot study with 20 wells, 20 out of the 100. The reason behind the 20 is that the landfill waste fill sequencing is such that it's like building a layer cake. It's going back and forth across the landfill, and it's interrupting those wells in that pathway. And those wells basically have to be raised and then reconnected after the being raised. And that's the other challenge of gas quality, is that interruption of operations has been a negative impact on gas quality to the plant. So we have a preference to have 20 wells that are in a more stable setting, so that they're not being disturbed significantly during the study period. And having the 2 types of wells, an automated controlled well and a manual well during the same 12 months will benefit from a comparison standpoint. You know, of course, we always have the history of those 20 wells under a manual process, so we can also compare to the well's history. And it's about $110,000 for that 12 months, about $8,000 a month in equipment rental, and some O&M support and operator IT support for the computer interface, and then about $14,000 in shipping installation costs and some incidentals around installation. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
All right, thank you, Guy. Thank you for the presentation. Dr. Barber?
Great presentation. Sounds like it has a lot of potential. Had just a few questions. So the automated LFG collection well is capturing 15% more, right? But how will it be maintained during this time? Is that cost in with the 110,000, and then how will it be maintained during this time of the 20 wells that will have the automation?
So the 15% is a potential increase.
Mm-hmm.
That we can look forward to potentially seeing here. I think anything from 5% to 15% would be a good range of improvement for the well specifically. The automated equipment that's supplied by the vendor will be serviced and maintained by the vendor. That's part of the agreement. And the use of the gas will be at the gas plant. You know, we endeavor, there's plenty of gas to keep 4 engines running, and that we endeavor to keep those engines running as an always-on position, as long as they're capable. And so the additional gas for the time being will go into the flare for its destruction. So that mitigates emissions from the landfill by burning it.
Okay, so you're actually answering a part of my other question already, so you're really good. Because you must have looked at my paper, you started answering that question, I was talking about emissions, so you just answered that part. So the last question, since you snuck and answered my second question, my last question is, after the 12 months, I know it's $8,000 a month now, but what will it be at that point in time? Because I'm assuming doing 12 months doing a pilot is less than what the actual cost will be, or is that going to be actual cost after 12-month period?
Your thoughts are in alignment. You know, 12-month is the pilot study. The staff would come back to the board and present results of the pilot study. And if there's sufficient demonstration of benefits, project what a full system implementation would be from a cost standpoint, and also try to monetize what the benefits would be to the district, so that the directors can understand that it's not just a cost, it's also yields some monetary benefits. So that's a separate presentation to the board. Basically at 12 months, we have a choice to stop the pilot study, continue the pilot study at the size that it is, until the board makes a more permanent decision of whether to stop altogether or to implement to the whole system.
Okay, so right now, it's $8,000 a month for 20 wells.
Right.
Okay.
And that's, you know, that's about 1/5 of the wells.
Mhm.
So if you just
I'm doing my calculations.
generally extrapolate, it's not necessarily a linear
Uh-huh,
function, but if we do consider it linear and extrapolate by 5x,
uh-huh,
you know, you're looking at about $500,000 a year.
exactly.
Yeah.
I got it. Thank you.
All right.
Right now, in terms of this agreement is that for 12 months, if we don't extend it or do something, they pull their equipment off and go home.
That's correct.
Is this vendor, produced, or has he installed any of this similar type of equipment on other landfills?
Yes, they actually have full landfill applications. We, as staff decided to just do a limited version, and somewhat influenced by the phasing of the landfill. I don't think it would be worthwhile to be monitoring the other wells that are being affected by the filling process too frequently. So,
Is there words in the contract with these folks that allows us to purchase equipment if we're satisfied with it? In order to, so they don't take it off and go with it.
that would be phase 2.
Okay.
That's not in this particular contract. To give you a little more history about loci controls, that's how they began their launch as a company, was with the intent to sell systems to the landfill operators. You know, that volume of business wasn't to their satisfaction. The uptake was not as much for the company's desire for their operations and growth. So as time went by, they developed a more subscription model tied with those RNG projects, which are getting monetary attributes in the RNG that's developed that has some significant financial benefits. And so their subscription base is kind of delivering it at almost no cost, as long as they get a piece of the monetary action on the attributes of the RNG. And again, those are sizable, and that's really been the popular delivery model that they've experienced in the last 4 or 5 years.
In English, what are you saying? Their models associated with getting a piece of the gas or the value of the gas?
Yeah, that's their preferred sales model today, but the intent of the background was to tell you that they still have the choice. We can buy and own and operate the equipment, or we can contract with them in this partnership where they share some of the monetary benefits of those.
What is their slice? Typically,
Well, it's gonna vary by size. I really don't want to quote it now because we really.
range.
Oh, it's, I would expect it to be, around a quarter to a third of those, monetary attributes.
Also known as the gas necessary to run maybe one more engine that they take home with them, that they think that's their cut. I know,
Yes.
I think that's their business, they have a business model.
Yeah,
Got it.
and we'll certainly frame it that way is, when, you know, if there's a phase 2, proposal to do, from staff to do the whole land.
One other question, is there any regulatory requirements that we have to meet associated with landfill gas? Sure there is.
Oh, yeah, there's quite a few, but the one basic is that at least once monthly, all those wells have to be monitored.
Okay. Last question or second last question. The information is being fed to some central location, you're off. It's on your desk. I mean, who reads this? Who takes action? Who looks at it? Is that
Well, that's be, some of Jay's guys, namely, Gilbert Nahara, the,
okay.
landfill gas, plant
Is that a
supervisor.
full-time job to do that, or, I mean, you do it once a month now, so it can't be a full-time job.
No, this is like having, it's like the instruments in your car. It's on demand information.
Okay.
You're not always looking at your instruments when you're driving, but there are times when you do. And that's how, you know, the analogy for operating that gas system. There are times you have to look to see what the instruments are telling you what's happening in the field.
Okay, last question, is general curiosity on my part. Right now, we take landfill gas, feed it to a generator, which feed it to an engine that turns the generator. Is landfill gas, appropriate to be used in a gas turbine?
Yes.
Okay.
Altamont landfill has 2 gas turbines and they've probably had it for 25 years.
Yeah. Back in my Halcyon days, I had a power plant and we had all gas generators. And
It's
You can see
100
that.
acres, it's 100 acres bigger than this landfill. The Altamont landfill in eastern Alameda County. And so
so they don't have any problem with the gas turbines, huh?
they don't.
With the voxels and all that kind of stuff.
They have a little bit, it's not been a huge maintenance issue.
It would seem that it would not be. Okay, thank you. Bill,
Thank you very much for the presentation. Just for questions, this is I think this is just a fantastic project and automating field operations, obviously. It takes the operators and diverts them to more value added work and then makes the whole operation more efficient. So anything to automate the system, it's just, it's beneficial. Anyhow, just a couple of simple questions. Over the long term, do you see a decrease in gas production per well?
Well, for any given well, yes, definitely. If that's the scope of your question, is a given well, yeah, it has a life cycle. It's going to, if it lives through the gas life cycle, you know,
How long? We talking years?
oh yeah, you can have a well that can be 15 years, 20 years old. If, you know, if the mass that it's collecting from is still producing gas.
Okay.
Yeah.
My other question was on gas composition. It wasn't really clear. You said gas quality, and you didn't say gas composition.
Same thing.
Yeah, sort of.
Well, yeah, composition of methane, the percentage of methane, the higher it is, it's improved quality. Because that's the fuel portion.
So how do you impact the production of methane per well? Is it by lowering the drawdown?
Yeah.
What was
Yes,
clear?
yeah, it exactly is. It's what Director Peak is saying is if one doesn't collect the flow rate's lower, doesn't collect as much from the well. That's going to, you know, relative to the generation, what's happening in the landfill. The landfill's making the gas. Well, the well's only pulling off as much gas as the operator is setting it to. Ideally, the two should match. But if they don't match and you're collecting less, the methane quality will tend to go up, and which is more fuel content, but it's going to eventually impact the bacteria colony and cause the generation to crash. So there's a tipping point that the one has to maintain.
Thank you.
If the 1383 is ultimately successful in removing more methane producing things from the landfill, if in our wildest dreams it actually works, will this cease to be a problem, or will it be a problem for the next 20 years, 30 years before we see a reduction in the methane?
So landfill gas generation will continue for decades.
Okay.
You know, it's you can count on, you know, more than 20 years of gas production after waste has been disposed. You know, with 1383, the quantity of gas that'll be generated will start to reduce. And so our future staff will have to make decisions whether to make capital investments depending on what phase of the gas generation curve is present. But that's a long ways away, really, because the landfill is only essentially close to half of its developed area, and less than half of its total volume yet to be put in place. So it all depends on what us humans do that deliver waste here.
And a follow-up question. we're not deciding this today because this is a pilot study that will go on for a year. But at that, there's always new innovations, so the model of subscription seems attractive to me at this point, because there could be something new and better come along, and if you purchase the whole system, you have something that may become obsolete. So we'll get some sort of information at the end of the pilot study to tell us how successful this has been and direct where we might go.
Sure, yeah, definitely. And we'll probably bring in a case study that already exists, Yolo County. In California, the county site has done this, and so that's a local case study, and there's a handful of other case studies across the country that can be used to parallel our site-specific experience. So we'll see both. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, quick
Vice Chair.
question. Thank you, Guy. I do support this. I think this is a great idea. I'm just curious, so if we do get 15% increase in gas, what would be our costs offset of this pilot study? In other words, how much additional revenue might we bring in by this increase in gas volume? Just thinking, this is how much we're allowing for the pilot study. What would be the offset if we were to increase in those 20 wells?
It could be as little as zero.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because it needs a revenue generating device to use the gas. Right now, our engines have all the gas that they can use. Excess goes to the flare. So in that scenario, day one, that excess gas is being flared off. There might be some operational cost savings in the monitoring. Not a lot, but if the quality of gas is meets the specification for the conditioning system for producing RNG, then we can get the RNG certified. We'll get monetary attributes on that use. We'll also get a sale of the gas to the franchise tenant,
Right.
and be collecting revenues from gas, fuel sales, in addition to those monetary attributes.
Okay, so that's really what we're trying to do ultimately. Okay.
And I mentioned the gas plant
Mhm.
recapitalization.
Mhm.
If you put 4 engines of the large size that's in there now,
Mhm.
you get an additional 1.4 megawatts in electric sales. Our neighbor here is hungry for electricity. They really have quite an appetite for it. And so there'll be electrical sales for that. And that would represent that was certainly those new engines would use more than 15% increase. But and it'll be enough gas there.
Mhm.
The challenges would be at that point in time is engines and the conditioning system. Can you really use both all at the same time?
Mhm.
We need a little more gas before there's a little more comfort margin on supply.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Guy. I do have a couple of questions as well. I guess the first one is, the RNG, what does the R stand for? Recovered? or
Renewable
Renewable.
natural gas.
Renewable natural gas. Okay, thank you. So if I'm following you, which if we can get 15%, I know you're not guaranteeing that increase. I recognize that some of that it might be otherwise fugitive, just escaping into the environment. If we weren't doing this, and is it also that we could be increasing the supply by tuning the environment in the landfill so that the bacteria is in the ideal situation for producing?
Yeah.
Or is it really just the fugitives?
It's tuning the well to more closely follow the climatic conditions that are influencing the gas extraction. But also align with what the landfill can give up for gas. It's changing as those climatic conditions change. And so if your collection device can follow that change, then you're optimizing the quantity that can be extracted, and you're reducing the potential for there to be fugitive emissions.
Okay, so it's mostly, that would probably be the main source is the fugitive.
Well, definitely that's an improved operation, and that's the challenge. One of the challenges of the manual system is, are we accomplishing enough? It's hard to measure if we're accomplishing enough every day. The surface emissions are surveyed once a quarter, and they generally have good survey results with some minor, local exceptions that get addressed and to mitigate that particular point. But the automated system would just make it so, further away from that ever happening, because you're collecting more gas and you're lessening the possibility of gas escaping.
One more question. From what I know, natural gas that comes into a house is lighter than air and tends to move up, and propane tends to be heavier than air and moves down. Is that what do we have? The methane that's in there, is that what does it pool at the bottom of the landfill, and that's why the wells are more effective, and it's really, or does it move?
No, in the landfill is a different environment, but outside the landfill, it is heavier. Okay, and it'll sink.
And that's when, and that's probably, it benefits us as far as the escaping gas. It's less.
It presents work zone hazards.
Yeah.
And so our folks have personal monitoring devices that they have to wear to detect the conditions of the environment they're in.
Okay, all right, well, thank you for the presentation. Thank you for looking into this, and I think it's a modern, let's keep moving forward. With 1983, we were one of the first, and hey, let's keep on the cutting edge, I think. Is there any public comment on this item? If so, please approach the podium or raise your hand if you're online.
Mike Nickam is on, he has his hand raised.
Okay, great. Mike?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, with your technical advisory committee, we've been working on these SB 1383 requirements, and basically the whole SB 1383 law is based on the concept that if you move organic material out of the landfill, you're going to reduce what you were just talking about, that surface emissions, or I call it the leakage rate out of the machine, out of the thing. And so, I kind of had the same question you just had with Guy is, do you expect that leakage rate or surface emissions will go down with these improvements? And if that's true, during the pilot project, are you going to be able to quantify that? Because I think that would be something that we could pass on to Cal Recycle as kind of trying to meet the intent of SB 1383.
So yes, it would improve. The quantification would be more qualitative than quantitative, actually. The industry is not at a point where we can really measure surface flux very well. The flux is the gas coming out of the surface of the landfill and going into the environment. That's really difficult to measure, across 150 acres. So we would have to estimate what that might be. But we will come back to the board with, potentially with our partnership with, Cal on, some, EPA grant and a state grant where, they are, developing some equipment to help identify, emissions at the landfill surface. So we might be able to get a contour of emission rates across the landfill. And knowing that contour of the different rates, we could make some calculations.
Thanks, guys.
That would be great information to have if we collect it. But so right now, quarterly, there's just a snapshot of emissions. It's not really like you say,
Yeah, there's actually people that walk the landfill with survey equipment. So they're following a walking pattern and they're covering most of the landfill that way. And it takes a few days to complete 160 acres of landfill.
All right. Seeing no more public comments, we'll close public comments. Would anyone care to make a motion on this?
I'll move approval of our limited term pilot study agreement.
Thank you, Eddie.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Kim, Vice Chair. All right, we have a motion to second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Right, so the motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Guy. It's a very positive thing. All right. So we are moving, we're item 10
Yeah,
now.
we'll move 10 to
We're
after
moving
closed session.
10 to after closed session. And so on the staff reports, review finance, operating and recycling reports.
I think, Sarah, at this time, we'll have Clark Gregson, our finance manager.
Morning, everybody. We are a quarter of the way through fiscal 24 now, and generally you could sum it up by saying things are looking pretty good. Revenue to the first quarter of the year is about 13.2 million, and we are about 270,000 above budget. Tip fees are below budget by about 155,000. However, the other revenue is made up for that. What has been interesting thus far is the performance of the MRF. The MRF has been doing quite well. Their sales are about 2.6 million against budget of $1.9 million this year. And the reason for that primarily is the fact that commodity prices are now going in the right direction. We've seen a lot of positive impacts. For example, one of my favorites, which is the mixed paper, which oftentimes runs negative, meaning we have to pay somebody to come here and take it away, is now positive. We're getting $16 a ton for it, whereas a year ago we were paying $20 a ton to have it taken away. So that's a plus. And the other commodity, the OCC, has gone up quite a bit too in the last year. So that's what's really impacting the MRF revenue. So that's been a big plus. Our operating expenses are about nearly $11 million, and we're about 380K over. And the reason for that primarily is what's going on with the power generation. Our power revenue is down in terms of actual versus budget. It's down versus compared to last year. And that's just, there's just been a lot of maintenance and repairs that have had to take place at the power generating station. So that's it reflecting in the revenue. It's also reflecting in our expenses so far year to date. Bottom line, net income, we're about 2.3 million, and we're about 84,000 ahead of budget. One plus we have so far this year is we sold some surplus equipment, which resulted in about $103,000 of revenue there. So that's contributing to our overage in terms of net income. In terms of landfill activity, material received, we're about 260,000 tons. We're about 22,000 tons higher than the same period last year. Our conversion rate continues to be in the overall about 60%. For the entire MRF, the C and D is about mid to high fifties, and the single stream is mid-60s%, and those numbers seem to be pretty consistent or steady from the past 24 months at least. So that's kind of where we are right now through September. Any questions? Be happy to take them.
No. Sure. Oh, yeah.
Thank you for, the great report. I just have a question out of left field, so, feel free to just dismiss it. We just finished the legislative session. I believe the governor signed a bill about adding, costs for turning in juice cartons. Did you happen to notice that? And
I have not seen that.
just wondering if that had any significant impact on it.
I know one of the bills was gonna include the wine bottles for a rebate as well. So we can look into it and get back to you on it, but I think it will have some sort of impact with collecting the material and getting it out at a revenue rather than a revenue reduction as it was in the past.
I really appreciate it, Bill. Anytime just the announcement like the session ended and the governor signed these bills, this is what's coming down.
I have something in my general manager comments that will discuss that as well.
So you said that the tip fee revenue is down. Was that for the month, not for the year? And
That's for the year.
for the year.
Yeah.
However, the tonnage that's come across the scales is up.
Is up, yes.
How did that happen?
Well, we budget based on what our tip fee is going to be for the year. So comparing this year to last year, the tip fees were lower, so this year they're higher. And we've just seen slightly lower numbers on some of the regional customers and other customers. It was largely due to that, July was a very down month in terms of tonnage coming in, and that impacted the tip fee revenue. August and September have been much better, and it looks like we're gonna, certainly make up that shortfall, in the coming months. The year started off kind of slow with tip fees. We'll make it up.
All right, so it was, and so we were comparing a month to the year. I mean, the year to date, we're higher in tonnage. But
Yeah, in terms of tons coming in, we're, higher than last year.
right,
So I'm actually, in terms of the tip fee revenue, I'm comparing the actual to the budget. But in terms of the tonnage coming in, we don't actually budget tonnage coming in, but I'm comparing the tonnage coming in this year to the tonnage coming in last year. So if you compare our tip fee revenue this year to last year, we are ahead.
Okay.
In tip fee revenue.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Everything's pointing in the right direction.
All right.
So when we had all the storm stuff coming in after the floods and everything, did we charge for all of those coming in? Or was some of that pro bono to help?
We charged for all that material.
Thank you.
There is no other questions from the board. Thank you very much, Garth. That's excellent, concise report. We'll move on to item 12, which is a report on the Technical Advisory Committee and SB 1383 September 13th meeting.
All right, thank you, Chair. Today we have Kristen Stromy, our Public Education Manager, presenting in value of the director.
Kristen O'Hara. Good morning. That's okay. Good morning, Chair Campbell and directors of the board. I'm here filling in for Zoe Schultz to give our tech update from our September meeting. So we covered 4 items at our last tech meeting. Our first item was how ReGen Monterey is going to be conducting the landfill characterization study headed up by engineering, and that's currently happening right now. The study aims to determine how much organic waste and how much recyclables is going into landfill. So we have people out there sorting, taking down data. And this will really help us with identifying a baseline as it relates to participation in the food scrap program as it relates to SB 1383. So we're really looking forward to the results of that study, and will be shared out by the engineering team. We had attended the the California Resource Recovery Association annual conference in August. And we had two really great sessions that I want to share with you. CalRecycle had a session specifically about SB 1383 jurisdiction compliance, which I know everyone is eager to hear how they're going to start enforcing SB 1383. They mentioned that due to limited staffing, they will be going through the jurisdictions. It's going to take them about 3 years to go through all the jurisdictions in the state of California. So 1/3 of the jurisdictions will be targeted in year 1, year 2, and year 3. And the way they're tackling it is they're going to be looking at those that are not doing a very good job with SB 1383 compliance. But on the flip side, they're going to be looking at those doing really well to use them as a case study. So I expect we'll be identified as maybe a regional area doing really well. And so we're ready for it. We're ready to welcome CalRecycle here. And in fact, they were here 2 weeks ago for a visit, and we were able to show them around. It was really wonderful. Felipe will touch on that. And so the timeline really, in terms of fines, I asked the question, what about the fines? Are the fines coming? So essentially, there's a 3-year timeline before anyone would even be fined. So enforcement period, as a reminder, starts January 1st, 2024. So that's just a few months away. But should a jurisdiction fall within the enforcement process, the 3-year timeline before fines would be enacted, there's a process of a jurisdiction receiving a notice of violation, an extension of the notice of violation, a corrective action plan, and then extension of the corrective action plan. So it's really a long runway before anyone would really see a fine come their way, which is really good news. But I don't think we have much to worry about because we're leaders in SB 1383 and compliance. And it's all because of our tech. So thank you for supporting us. So another great thing that came out of the CRRA conference is that we have a third-party contractor, Blue Strike Environmental. They shared a presentation on our progress with edible food recovery. And so they were really sharing on our behalf in conjunction with Salinas Valley Recycles. The session shared our regional approach to recovering more edible food in Monterey County, which is super important. Let's see here. So the main focus was how to build more capacity for edible food recovery, including our grant program and receiving more donations, dispersing that out to those in need. And over the last 2 years, we have donated in conjunction with Salinas Valley Recycles $186,000. So that was a huge highlight. Also, we have an app called Carrot. We've mentioned it a couple times at board meetings, but the app essentially connects those that are generating food and connects the food generators to those recovering the food. So that was also covered in the presentation. And then lastly, we had some of our organizations present that have received grant funds and donations. So we had St. George's Episcopal Church, Dorothy's Place, and Salvation Army in Salinas. So it was really wonderful to have those organizations there present for the presentation. They were on the panel answering questions, and you made us look so good. It was really wonderful. So we're really pleased with our progress, and we'll continue to come forth with updates about edible food recovery. And then lastly, we shared about a roll-off compaction company that was brought to our attention by one of the haulers. It is essentially a compaction company that comes in, and if you're familiar with roll-off dumpsters, they're the big construction dumpsters that we have on site here. There's this company called Smash My Trash that comes in and literally smashes the trash with like this big backhoe. And there's a lot of concerns from the haulers about potential liabilities, damage to property. It's a concern, but we haven't seen them operating in our area, but they could potentially. So we're keeping an eye on that. And that's my last update. So any questions?
Karen, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. It's nice to hear good news. I'm just curious, does the TAC ever discuss how they can encourage our jurisdictional cities to do a better job when they have special events, as far as actually monitoring the bins and having a real system? Because I'm a little embarrassed that Carmel has these great events, and then afterwards we see overflowing trash cans, we see contamination of the recycle bins. It's, you know, I think there maybe needs to be a little bit more pressure on special events to do a good job.
Certainly, and we don't discuss that at the TAC level. However, ReGen Monterey does support special events. We offer and loan out sorting station systems. So if you're having, you know, the Food and Wine Festival in Carmel, we actually work with them to donate the infrastructure at the event. So you see the blue corrugated plastic container with that says recycle, the organics and the trash. So the cities can come to us, rent those out, and there's no cost to jurisdictions. So that kind of helps with the monitoring. And we've developed new signage to help reflect what goes in each container. So our staff can certainly help with better signage at those events. It would be up to the event organizer to hire volunteers maybe to stand by at those waste stations, because it's confusing at events. You know, you're having a good time. The last thing on your mind is like, am I doing this right? You know, you just kind of want to get rid of whatever you have. So I encourage your staff to reach out to us and we can assist for special event season.
And then you mentioned some of the groups that participate in the sharing of the food. Is Food Bank of Monterey they're connected with that too?
Yeah, so the Food Bank of Monterey, they operate on a really large scale, and we've reached out to them to collaborate a lot, but at this time, we're really working with the smaller recovery organizations that they may just need a little bit more resources and infrastructure, whereas the Food Bank has better infrastructure. So we're looking at who needs more help at this time. So yeah, great question.
Mike, I see you have something to add.
Yes, I just wanted to say that the last comment was a very good comment about the special events and what the role for technical advisory committee could be. We haven't talked about it before, but on many other items, we review what each jurisdiction is doing. And I think for special events, that's something we could put on the agenda for a future meeting, kind of just saying how it's the responsibility of jurisdictions to do it, but we could share what works and what doesn't work. We do the same thing on some of the rollout stuff for SB 1383. So thanks for that suggestion. We hadn't really thought about that as an agenda item prior to this.
Great.
Thank you.
Right. Anyone else? All right, Kristen, thank you very much. And yeah, that's the tax just doing amazing work like usual. So that's fantastic. All right. Other correspondence? I don't see any other correspondence. So, okay, thank you, Ida. General Manager Communications.
Thank you, Chair. I have a few communications today. The first one, I'd like to welcome our new employee. Her name is Rocio Campos. She's our regulatory compliance technician. If you wouldn't mind standing, Rocio. Rocio. Rocio comes from Sacramento, where she's worked for the California Air Resources Board, giving her experience in the environmental compliance area. Rocio graduated from the University of Cal Berkeley So she has alumni, here with her. And we're super excited to have her, here. She's gonna take on a role of environmental, compliance, and it's one that's really important for us to advance our engineering team. And we'll allow her to take over the majority of the compliance and give her the exposures and experiences we need. So, together, we welcome Rocio Campos to our team, and we're super excited to have her on board. Thank you, Rocio. A couple other announcements. I was able to attend the NAACP 51st annual event in Seaside. It was a great event. There was a lot of awards and recognitions for members that participated and support the community. So it was a great event. The Cal Recycle visit, I had an opportunity to talk to some of the representatives, Melissa Vargas and Laura Chain, in how we were doing and how well we are at the forefront of communication. So to folks like Mike Nickum that dedicate themselves to the tech, our staff here, our haulers, our partners in everything that we do to recover materials, get them to the right facility, and get them done. We're very comprehensive. And as Kristen said, you know, we're expecting a very high mark on how we come in as not only as an agency, but as a community, the community of Monterey County, everybody coming together, us, Solid Waste Authority, Salinas Valley Recycles. We all play a big role in what we're doing here, and it's being noticed. So I believe that we would probably be a case study for other areas trying to advance. And I think that's the challenge, is how fast can we advance when we still have some that are slowly advancing and trying to help the ones that need the help, and the ones that want to continue to advance are kind of limited on what's next, what's new for the environment. So it's the challenges, but the TAC and the community and all the organizations involved are participating. And Cal Recycle sees us as one giant voice rather than many small voices. So we'll continue the pathway where they know we're coming from Monterey County and that we want to be at the best of what we do, and setting the bar for other agencies as well. We also had an event, a legal dumping and litter abatement task force at a cleanup event in Castroville. Kristen and Franco participated. When I seen Franco come back, he was drenched in sweat. He was excited, but doing their part. And I also wanted to take the time to acknowledge the citizens for Marina, Director Delgado. They do a cleanup every month on Lapis. It's every third weekend. And we want to thank them for their contributions as we recognize the folks from the litter abatement task force. There's a lot to learn amongst all the people that are trying to keep our communities clean. The MRF has been down since, I'm glad to hear that the commodity prices from guide are going in the right direction. The MRF has been down since October 10th. So if you guys haven't heard anything, we're doing a really good job of still collecting material and being prepared to process. We had a cylinder go down. It's for our baler, and it stopped all our operations in the MRF. And the part was coming from Germany. The part was about $60,000, trying to get it to an airport and getting it overseas. We should be receiving that sometime today. And we should be up and running for tomorrow. Really excellent job from the operations team. I'd like to give Jay and his many teams, but especially the MRF team. I was asked by the vice chair, what are we having these people do while we're down? And we're doing everything we can. We're painting bollards. We've helped with the cleanup on Charlie Benson. So I was kind of disappointed that Mayor Delgado wasn't here, because he always gives his opinion on how well we're doing. The MRF floor is completely clean. We're doing some preventative maintenance. We're doing cleanup at the top of the landfill. So the MRF team has dispersed in smaller teams to help all the other operations on our facility get ahead. Some employees took the opportunity to take time off. And that team is really excited and nervous because we'll be working 6 days a week, 12 hours a day to get caught up. So really, really nice work from everybody involved to alleviate the pressures from the MRF team, but also communicate to everybody that's using our facility on what's going on and how to appropriate the pathways to get material delivered and processed. So we'll be working extremely hard over the next couple of weeks to try to get caught up. one item that I have is save the date, December 2nd. You guys will be receiving an invitation that's sent out from the Human Resources team. Thank you, Director Torres, for organizing that. Save the date. Fox Theater in Salinas will be our annual organization celebration for the end of the year. So we're excited about that. I also was able to attend the special districts meeting this month along with Director Barber. We had a really good session, and it was touching on a little bit of Director Pete's position of seeing all the bill updates. So we did have a member from CSDA on what was occurring with all the bills. There was over 3,000 bills taken to the state of California for review. And yes, all 3,000 bills are read, and there are definitely two sides of the position on them. I'd like to come back when Director Schultz is back to deliver what some of those wins are and some of those impacts on some of those bills. Maybe not all 3,000, but the ones that would influence our facility here. And we also had an opportunity to hear from CLASS. They're an organization that helps with how we appropriate our excess money, and is that money working for us or not? And we'll be revisiting that as well to ensure that we're doing the best we can with our excess money, and is it liquefied or do we have it diversified somewhere else? So continuing down the path, they did mention reserves and agencies not having them. So I'm really excited that, with the help of Director Petrobor and Director Rodriguez, we've been kind of heading in the right direction, and we still kind of look at the liabilities that lie maybe decades away from us, but we're concerned about it now. And I think that was the general message that we were receiving, is the people that do it now and get ahead save themselves from a lot of rigorous, intense trying to figure out how we're going to make this happen. So just really excited that there's a lot of things going on. Thank you, everybody. And that is all my communications today, Chair. Thank you.
All right, I just, you did mention on the part, the drum that the staff is considering in the future to figure out some way to have some redundancy on a critical part like that.
Yes, so, we had operations Director Brunel prior to Ramos. And one of his to-do list was to look at a secondary baler for the MRF operations. And it wasn't really for a breakdown. It was, we could be more efficient with running two commodities through a baler rather than switching it over from one commodity to another. And with the scenario we had, looking at a secondary baler would be important for us. Looking for a baler that has domestic parts available and we don't have to go to rely on Europe. And we will most likely take the broken cylinder, have it refurbished, and have it ready for the next scenario. But a consideration going into the next budget is, could we appropriate a second baler that could help us run more efficiently through the MRF? So just kind of gave exposure to that when we weren't really ready for it. But the teams responded very well. And like I said, I think we got ahead on a lot of other pre-winter tasks that sometimes we struggle to get to, and we had the extra resources to do so.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, that's once again, really good communications, and then it's nice to know that things are moving along despite setbacks. I mean, you guys said it's good job keeping making up for with the time and all that. That's really fantastic. Okay, so we're on to board communications. Is there any member of the board who has any communications before we move on to the audience?
Yeah, one.
Yes.
I am a member of the California LAFCO Association Board. We're hosting the Cal LAFCO conference for statewide LAFCO members here in Monterey County, in Monterey actually this week. And I'm proud to share that ReGen is a sponsor of the conference. So it's been great being in the space with the big ReGen logo everywhere I look. I just wanted to say thank you, and it makes me proud to be a ReGen member and get a chance to talk about the great work we're doing with colleagues from around the state. So I started my morning at 7:30 today at one of those board meetings. So part of my yawns.
Well, thank you for representing and making it to our meeting. You're obviously staying very busy, so. Anyone else? All right, we're gonna move on to which is the appointment of the ad hoc nomination committee to consider board chair and vice chair appointments, something we do every year. And so the idea is we will appoint two members of this board to consider who to nominate to be next year's board chair and vice chair. And if all works as planned, the committee will return next month at the next meeting with their nominees or nominations, and we will vote on it in November. So we'll be prepared for January 1st. And Kim and I have spoken about this, and we've reached out to a couple of board members, and that would be Wendy and Leo. So that is who we would like to appoint to the ad hoc committee. If there's any comments on this? All right. All right. Thank you very much, Wendy. Thank you, Leo. I look forward to your recommendations next month. I'm not sure if it will need to be I don't know if the nomination, the names need to be agendized or not. I think it would just need to be.
Yeah, I don't believe the names would need to be agendized.
Okay.
Yeah, just the action.
Just the action. Great. All right. With that done, we can move on to closed session. Bob, if you could please read us into closed session.
Right.
And I will ask for if there's any public comment on our closed session items before we actually go.
Very good. Well, the board is going to meet this this morning in closed session under 54-956 of the government code, which is to consider a matter of labor negotiations with an unrepresented employee, and that employee is the general manager. And so then we will be coming out of closed session, back into open session, and presumably take up item 10.
All right, thank you. Is there any public comment on our closed session item? Please approach the podium or raise your hand online. Okay. Seeing none, closing public comment on the closed session item. If the council could.
I'll make the report out of closed session, which was just concluded. I'll report out on behalf of the board in the closed session this morning that the board received information, including regarding the acceptance by the general manager of an offer by the board, which was to increase the compensation currently furnished to the general manager by 5%. Such increase to be effective on July 1, 2023. The direction from the board in closed session to take that action was unanimous, and this report is intended unanimous with all board present this morning. This report is intended to satisfy and comply with the requirements of Government Code 54-953C3. So that is the report out of closed session. We will now take up agenda item 10, which was deferred, which is to approve the compensation in the form of salary benefits furnished to the general manager.
Right.
I move to approve what he just did.
I'll second. Thank you, Leo, and then second from Jerry. Wonderful. Is there any public comment on this item? Please approach the podium or make yourself known online by raising your hand. Okay, seeing no one. We have a motion and a second, and we were all clear on it. That's thank you, council. And Bill.
Well deserved, and glad to see you back in our good health.
Thank you, Director.
All right. Yes, I agree. Thank you for that comment. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes unanimously. All right. Thank you, Berta. I think you know clear on everything, and thank you very much, Felipe. Thank you for all your great leadership.
Thank you, Chair. And my dedication to the organization will continue to be more forward thinking, innovative, to continue to drive for the success and be the standard for other organizations. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Seeing no further business, we'll adjourn this meeting to our next regularly scheduled meeting.